To optimally stimulate growth, one must first recruit as many muscle fibers as possible before fatiguing them. And it has to be done in that order, because you obviously cannot fatigue a muscle fiber that has not yet been recruited. Now, some of the more popular and effective methods to enhance recruitment are those in which at least 85% of one's full range 1 rep max is used. So if you could bench press 200 pounds, anything over 170 will generally result in 100% muscle activation. After 85%, the difference in muscle recruitment generally is determined by how quickly the muscle fibers are recruited. You don't recruit more per se. You don't recruit more than 100% of the involved musculature, but you recruit it at a faster pace to produce the necessary force to complete the lift. Now, aside from that, there are 4 popular, common, and effective methods that one could use. One of them is simply to intend to lift as fast as possible. The faster that you intend to lift, irrespective of how fast the weight actually is lifted, will result in a greater amount of muscle fibers being recruited, and it will happen at a faster pace. So that's a good way to enhance recruitment. Another way is by attempting to lift more than you could through a full range of motion. Now, if you can lift 200 pounds through a full range of motion on any lift, I mean a squat, a bench press, a deadlift, and pick your lift, it doesn't really matter for the purpose of this example. Through a half range of motion, and you'll see this all the time in the gym, especially with young guys trying to lift more than they can. They call it ego lifting. It's just a way to, you know, pad your own ego, and psychologically it makes you feel good to lift more than you know that you can. By doing partial repetitions, by performing the range of motion in which mechanically you are at your strongest. So for a bench press, that is basically just benching through the top half of the range of motion. For a squat, it's performing a quarter squat. Everybody can quarter squat, probably 100 pounds more than they could full range squat. And most people will write that off as bad form or ineffective. Now, if used exclusively, it's probably not going to build a lot of muscle. But as a recruitment method, it's actually a very, very effective way to enhance recruitment, as long as you don't use it exclusively, and you use other more effective methods to fatigue the muscle fibers after they've been recruited. So partial range of motion is one, and the first point there was lifting as fast as you can. The next 2 are methods in which you overload your muscle structures by way of using more weight than you can handle concentrically. So basically where I'm going with this is isometrics and eccentrics. Eccentrically, we are anywhere between 10, 30, 40, some coaches suggest up to 75% stronger eccentrically, meaning we can lower 75% more weight than we can lift. It's just the way the body's designed, and the way the cross bridging is designed. When the muscles are contracted, they can produce more force eccentrically. So by taking advantage of this natural phenomenon, you can increase your capacity to stimulate growth by using it by way of recruitment. And you can also use it to exhaust, but that's a little more dangerous, a little more tricky, especially if you don't have a good training partner or know what the hell you're doing, or are working within the safety of a power rack. But if you do have those things, and you do know what you're doing, by loading up with anywhere between 10 to 30%, I would say, is probably safe and all that's needed, and lowering as slow as possible is one way to enhance recruitment and turn on more muscle fibers for them to be stimulated later through more effective methods. And then the other one's isometrics, trying to move an immovable object. Because of the way the body's designed, it's a lot easier to maximize recruitment when you're pushing against a completely solid, stable object like a barbell on a power rack that is loaded up with more weight than you'd ever imagine to lift in the first place. Let's say you can bench 300 pounds. If you load up the bar with 310, 320, 330 pounds, whatever, something more than you could lift naturally, and you try to exert as much force as possible, you're going to recruit maximum muscle activation. That will be the result. So that's another way. So those are the 4 methods that are best suited for recruitment only. They can also be used to increase your capacity, to stimulate growth, but generally those are best suited for recruitment.